Ah! Bang! The two of them were scattered at this touch, and the little evil fell like a broken line of wind and stopped moving. The man in black stood on the spot, not smiling, like a stone statue. The air seemed to suddenly freeze, and even the leaves did not dare to scream any more, and it was so quiet that it was frightening, and it was so still that it was frightening. Soon, the figure in black had slowly fallen forward, inch by inch, and finally he also fell. At this time, the little evil body reacted and twitched, and he slowly woke up, and he slowly crawled towards the man in black, only 1 foot away, but he held it 7 or 8 times, which was undoubtedly the longest road he had ever climbed. Touching the body of the man in black, I wanted to find out if there was any elixir to cure injuries, but the little evil was disappointed and didn't find it. Flipping the black-clothed human body, you can find that the black-clothed man has a very small blood mark on his left eye. This scar is only known to Xiaoxie himself. It is his life-saving trick. The second flying knife was injured. No one knew the secret, not even his old man. This flying knife is a flying knife with no life, not a life and death entrance, not a life pass. Xiaoxie will never use it easily. Looking at the scars of the man in black, Xiaoxie felt very satisfied, and the flying knife pierced the back of the head from the left eye. With a wry smile, Xiaoxie crawled to Han Ling only 6 feet away. He crawled for half an hour, and finally slapped Han Ling's jade pillow a cup ointment. This beat Xiaoxie could no longer help. Lying quietly on the ground, he was too seriously injured. Han Ling woke up and was surprised. The little evil is powerless, cold. Almost. The corners of his mouth smiled slightly, and his eyes were closed groggily, like a baby asleep. The pain suffered by the little evil could not make his face overflow with unbearable sorrow, and he still smiled, laughing so innocently, laughing so sadly, making people cry. Han Ling's eyes were Xiaoxie, but seeing that his whole body was bloody, she was shocked at first. She was shocked and hoarse, and immediately deceived herself and hugged Xiaoxie in her arms and cried, "Xiaoxie, Xiaoxie, you cheer up, Xiaoxie, you can't die. Little evil." She shook her little evil from time to time, and wept from time to time, so helpless and helpless. Xiaoxie was shaken by her, and he woke up a little, opened his heavy eyes, looked at Han Ling, opened his mouth, opened, and it took a lot of strength to spell out a few words. "Cold. Ling. I'm dead. No. Fall. Hurry up and sound like a gossamer, difficult to understand." As soon as he finished speaking, the corners of his mouth oozed blood, and he was already dying. Little evil. Seeing that Xiaoxie was not dead, Han Ling immediately wanted to find someone to treat him, picked him up and ran down the mountain, but she was stupid again when she turned around. I only heard a series of strange screams of "Gigi already came, I want to go, but it's not so easy, Gigi." Han Ling exclaimed, "Don't come here, I'm..." The one who came was the ghost king Ji Sangxiao, who had lost and returned. Ji San smiled and raised his eyebrows, and said with an evil smile, "Hee, I found you so hard." Fortunately, the sound of the fight attracted the old man, and finally let the old man find you, haha. "Hey, isn't this little watch the same yesterday? Okay." The old man split him. Han Ling hurriedly stepped back and shouted, "Don't move him. I'll go with you. Han Ling knows that there is no hope of escaping, and she is willing to do anything to save Xiaoxie, and this is the only way for now. He he. Li San smiled and said, "Okay. Since you agreed to go with the old man, it will be cheaper for this kid." He has walked towards Han Ling, wanting to restrain her appointment and kill Xiaoxie again. Xiaoxie was laughed at by Li San. He had woken up. He knew that Han Ling was going to fall into the hands of the old ghost again, but he hated that he was seriously injured and was powerless to resist. His heart was extremely nervous, and he fought hard to eat milk and said, "God! Under! First! Martial arts cheats! Xian Bailu!" He shouted loudly, afraid that Li Sangziao didn't hear it, and when this cry was out of breath, he immediately fell into a coma. It's hard for Xiaoxie to be in the line of death, and he can still think of such a strange trick to relieve Han Ling. He can stick a knife in the ribs for his friend, and you can see how much friendship Xiaoxie values from a small thing, although Han Ling is just a new acquaintance. But in Xiaoyi's mind, he thinks that he is a friend. One person is enough, and it is enough to see him, which is also one of the reasons why people like him. When the old ghost Li San heard this, he immediately grabbed the collar of the little evil and shouted, "Boy, what do you say that the first in the world Xian Bailu, where is it?" Unfortunately, the little evil can't answer. At this time, Han Ling already knew that Xiaoxie was talking nonsense in order to save herself, and there was no Xian Baolu at all. She could feel Xiaoyi's hard work, and she also followed Rendao. "Old monster, this friend of mine has the world's #1 Xian Baolu. Unfortunately, only he knows where to put it. That treasure record is much more powerful than the Taishang Demon Sutra." Li San smiled and thought, "It's possible, this little watch can kill more than a dozen people in black alone, but his skills are very high, and he shot himself last time." He looked at the corpse of the man in black and exclaimed, "Is it the Ghost Valley Demon King Child Blood Bear?" Ji San smiled and thought, Tong Xuexiang's internal and external skills are on par with the old man, and he will die in the hands of this little watch. Evil gate, evil gate. By the way, he must have practiced the Kung Fu on the Xian treasure record. Such a small watch has only been more than 10 years since he was born, and he can kill the child blood bear after practicing for more than 10 years. This treasure record is really powerful. The old man has to take him back to the Snake Valley to ask about the treasure record. Saying that, he clicked on the Han Ling faint point, and ran back to the mountain Snake Valley with one person on each side on the left and right. The one who was killed by Xiaoxie with the second flying knife was one of the 9 demons in the world, the demon king of the Ghost Valley Tong Blood Bear, and he also had a younger brother, Tong Blood Wolf, who was also one of the 9 demons, and his Kung Fu was better than his brother. XXX. The Snake Valley comes out of the cliff after returning to the mountain, and the whole valley is full of poisonous snakes. No wonder it is called the Snake Valley. Ji Sangziao lives in the Snake Cave, which is large and deep, and it is like a tunnel made of artificiality, extending in all directions, like a labyrinth. Ji Sangziao put Xiaoxie and Han Ling on the stone bed, and first used medicine to treat Xiaoxie's wounds. The Ghost King is known as the world's 2 poisons, and its poison skills can be imagined, and those who practice poison skills and poison drugs must also know how to mix drugs with medicine. Of course, the higher the poison power, the higher the cultivation, and the more effective the medicine it dispenses. There must be a unique place to use it in the treatment of injuries, and it is really not wrong, but I see. Xiaoxie soon woke up, and when he saw the old ghost, he smiled and said, "Lao Er, I've worked hard for you, where is my little sister?" Although he was still lying down, as long as he could speak, he would not give up the opportunity to speak. Ji San smiled and couldn't treat the ghost fetus coldly when he wanted to get the Xian treasure record. He also smiled and said, "Right next to you, you can talk." He unleashed Han Ling's feint and clicked the numbhole on the ground. Han Ling woke up and exclaimed, "This is where I... Little evil! Yang Xiaoxie!" She was worried about Xiaoxie, and as soon as she woke up, she called Xiaoxie's name. Xiaoxie smiled, "Han Ling, I'm right next to you. Don't worry." The sound of the words shook his chest, causing it to ache again. Han Ling couldn't move, she could only glance at Xiaoxie with the rest of her eyes, and she said, "Xiaoxie, are you okay?" You can't die, don't worry." Li Sangziao coughed dryly twice and laughed, "Little brother, your sister is fine, can you tell me a secret?" "What's the secret?" The little evil secretly laughed at himself, and the old ghost was hooked. Li Erai smiled and asked, "Did I hear that you have a Xian Bao record?" Xiaoxie smiled and said, "What are you talking about?" "The world's number one Xian Bao Lu." Li San smiled and saw that he didn't excuse himself, and he said it naturally, and said with joy in his heart, "Yes, it is this world's number one treasure record." The little evil wanted to play Li San and laughed at him and said, "Thank you for saving your life. If you hadn't saved our brother and sister, we must have been dead all over the mountains. In order to repay your kindness, I will tell you this secret." Li San smiled and said hurriedly, "Then you say it quickly." Xiaoxie recalled, "This Xian treasure record is my." The master of Zhangtasia passed down and was engraved on a stone wall. "The stone wall is there. Tell me quickly, and I'll find it myself."